Alrighty. So this is my first little installment of my NFL time capsule. This idea was kind of born because I needed an outlet to talk about just my thoughts on different subjects surrounding football, and I also thought it'd be pretty fun to have this accessible to come back to in a couple years and just see my thoughts on certain things. So that's how the time capsule idea was born. So it'll be pretty unstructured, basically unedited, just kind of rambling about my thoughts on certain things. So I wanted to start today just by talking about quarterbacks. Very important, the most important position in football. And the way that we talk about quarterbacks is kind of interesting. I feel like maybe it's been diluted and made worse by social media just because everything is about accolades and playoff success and not so much how an actual quarterback elevates a team. Plus, everything's so scheme dependent. But that's a different discussion. Today I just want to talk about my kind of 6 tiers of quarterbacks, and I just want to talk about what distinguishes them in my mind right now, and just little thoughts about them. So before I start, I just want to say that these tiers aren't explicit rankings. I'm just kind of grouping together quarterbacks who are in a similar spot or on a similar trajectory. Like a quarterback in tier 4 could be above a quarterback in tier 3 in my actual 2025 rankings, but he'll be in tier 4 because he's more like the rest of the guys in tier 4. And I should also say, since this is a time capsule, it is June the 3rd of 2025 for when I'm coming back to this later. So tier 1 just has 4 guys in it, and this tier is guys who make your team an instant Super Bowl contender just because you have them. I'm sure this is a pretty consensus top 4, but we've got Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, and Joe Burrow. All around the same age. I think Lamar is the youngest, Josh and Joe are the same age, and then Patrick is turning 30 around the start of this upcoming season. But they've done enough on the field to speak for themselves. I really don't need to spend too much time on them. If I had to pick, I'd pick Lamar first these days. Patrick, I thought, was infallible for a couple of years, but there were some flaws that were exposed last year, especially in the Super Bowl. He didn't have Rashee Rice and his little check down guy, which kind of helps that whole offense flow and get them into manageable third downs. So I think Lamar can elevate the team a little bit more by himself. And then Allen is number 2. Patrick number 3, and Burrow number 4, just as the all-world processor, but just doesn't have the athletic ability to extend plays that the other 3 do. So that's really all I have to say about tier 1. There's more interesting stuff on the board, so I really just want to get to it because I want these to be digestible pieces for myself later. I'm not trying to listen to myself yammer for an hour. So tier 2 also just has 4 guys. These are just franchise studs. All right, we got Justin Herbert. We got Jaden Daniels, we got Jalen Hurts, and we got C.J. Stroud. So I'll go through these a little bit more one at a time. I think Herbert is pretty uncontroversially in the second tier of quarterbacks. I know there's some discussion on whether he is truly elite, but I think he's still got the traits, the arm power, the processing to make things happen. His pocket presence isn't on the same level as the top 4 guys, which is I think really what separates him, because he can improvise and he's got a cannon. He just can't always doesn't have that pocket feel where something's collapsing around him. He's not always sure what to do, where it feels like the other guys, they're making something happen every time, basically. Like you get surprised when you sack Lamar. It's not the same with Herbert. But obviously I'm a big believer. I have him at number 5 in my rankings. I think he's excellent. I have Jaden Daniels in this tier. Some people might put him above, but realistically, even after a great rookie season, I think you gotta have him in this tier. He's an excellent improviser, and he's got that pocket feel, I think, even a little bit more than Herbert does. I just want to see it more, because after last season, I might have had C.J. Stroud in a similar spot, and then, I'll talk about him a little more in a second, but due to some things out of his control, he didn't really take another step forward, a bit of a sophomore slump. So I just want to see it one more time from Jaden Daniels. No hate. I think he's a great player. So it could age poorly that I have him in this tier and not tier 1 just because of his game-breaking ability with his legs. But that will remain to be seen. Jalen Hurts, Super Bowl MVP, really rises to the occasion in big games. He's not infallible, obviously. He's made some silly decisions, but most of those come in regular season games. I feel like from his time at Alabama all the way through to his Super Bowls, the best games that he's played have been the biggest games. I think that's an intangible that's, like, you can't overlook that. He's very good on the ground, changes the game, even if the tush push eventually gets banned, which would be silly. I think he's firmly in the second tier of quarterbacks. Maybe not a lot of mobility to go up. I can't see him making that jump to top tier, but you've won a Super Bowl with him, so you're happy with a second tier quarterback if you're Philly, obviously. And then the last one I have in this tier, which I wasn't sure if I should flip him down to another tier, but I ended up keeping him here, is CJ Stroud. I really do believe in the talent and what we saw in year 1. Even though there was some regression in his accuracy and decision making this year, a lot of that was, like, I'm willing to excuse it just because the offensive line was so poor and the weapons around him dropped like flies. Like, Collins got hurt, Dell got hurt, Schultz was hurt for periods of time. It just really was the perfect storm to not go that well. The league had an extra year of film on him from his rookie year, which is another reason I have Jaden in this tier with him. But I'm pretty certain they threw their first 3 picks on the offensive side of the ball, 2 receivers and an O-lineman. Like, I'm happy that they're doing what they can to help him out, even if Arion Harris-3 obviously isn't. Laramie Tunzel. I think CJ Stroud will have a bit of a bounce back, and having him in this second tier shouldn't be too controversial. I'm pretty confident in it. Just drafted him in a dynasty startup to put my money where my mouth is too. You know, I thought about this before recording. I wasn't sure if I should do this, but I am going to do it. I'm going to put these next 2 quarterbacks in a tier of their own, kind of 2B. I'm gonna title it The Trade, because the tier is just Jared Goff and Matthew Stafford. I have them in a tier of their own. It'll make more sense when I get to my third tier, but they're kind of separated themselves in terms of my actual just rankings this year from the guys that they would be in a tier with in tier 3. Because I have Goff at 6 and Stafford at 8. Like, if you're a top 8 quarterback, I think you got to be in this tier. Like, I can't lump them in with the rest of the guys in tier 3. Goff just is so good in his role. Elevated his game really well. Like, I think his progression has been weirdly linear, I feel like, in my mind. Like, maybe he had one down year, but if that was, it feels like an injury. But I just feel like he's gotten, like, slightly better every year. And it's tough to do that in the NFL, and I really respect it. So if you can keep it going, even without Ben Johnson, I think the pieces are okay here. Well, obviously the pieces are really good. What I mean is the foundation, the structure of the offense should hold without him. I'm sure they'll keep the same principles together with the in-house coordinator promoted. I don't remember his name, but like, he should look great. He's 30, 31. Like, he's still got plenty of years left in him. I think I was maybe even a little low on Jared Goff the past couple of years. I think I've come around to see that he's really good. He's fantastic. And then Stafford, he's been perennial top 5 for me for years. So he's just after this year, he slipped to 8. I still think he's excellent. It's just, you can tell it's starting to go a little bit. It's not like he's looking timid or anything. I don't think it's that. It's just injuries catching him a little bit. He's just got little things, like he's had a toe injury, I think, like little finger injuries. He's just like a little bit beat up. So he's not quite as precise, but he's still on time and everything, and that's just fantastic with Kupp and Nakua last year. And now with Nakua and Adams, I think their ceiling is still the Super Bowl. I don't think it should be that surprising to anybody. I feel like it's like not a popular pick, but it's worth sprinkling a little cash on if you're a bettor out there. Not gambling advice. So my third tier is like very good veterans, but they've hit their ceiling basically. This is a bit of a bigger tier. No, not really actually. There's only 5 guys in it. So we got Baker Mayfield, Dak Prescott, Sam Darnold, Geno Smith, and I even snuck Aaron Rodgers into the back of this tier. So we'll talk about them in order again. Baker, very easy to root for, obviously, with his journey from the shit show in Cleveland to saving his career with 1 game in Los Angeles and then ending up in Tampa with a brief stint in Carolina. I don't actually remember when that was in that timeline. The forgotten age, really. But Baker can sling that thing. He's like Joe Burrow minus 20%. Like, he doesn't have the processing ability where you can just line up an empty all the time and just let him call everything and read everything and set protections and whatnot. But he's the next best thing, and he's a little more mobile than Burrow. Like, I think he had almost 400 on the ground last year. He can get it done. Like, you can win a Super Bowl with Baker Mayfield. I'm confident that it could happen. Not that I'm predicting it, but he's a great quarterback. Number 11 in my rankings, and the top of this tier. The next is Dak Prescott. Dak gets a lot of hate. Like, it's probably just because he's on the Cowboys, but realistically, like, he's a top 15 quarterback. He's probably doesn't have a lot of room to grow, even though I just saw the other day Brian Schottenheimer, their current OC, came out and was like, he's still developing. It's like, how about you shut up? Like, Dak is very good. He's got good arm talent, adequate mobility, adequate pocket feel. Like, all these things are, like, slightly above average. He doesn't have, like, a game-breaking trait. Maybe he's poised. I think of him as pretty poised compared to other quarterbacks, but he's also doesn't have a ton of playoff wins on his resume, so maybe that's just my personal perception of it. I'm kind of interested to see what happens with Dak this year because he's got CD and Pickens. That's kind of the ideal 1-2, I feel like, for him. Like, he could be set up for success, but there's a lot of variables around him, so we'll see. Not a lot of conviction on Dak either way, but he definitely belongs in this tier. Next, I kind of want to talk about Sam Darnold and Geno Smith together because they're back-to-back in my rankings. I have Darnold slightly ahead just because he was slightly better that last year. Their team won 14 games. Seahawks won 10, I think, something like that. So you got to have Darnold above, but, like, these are both guys who've bounced back from adversity, similar to Mayfield, honestly, in their trajectories. Both a little older. Or maybe Darnold's younger than Mayfield. Were they in the same draft class? I don't know. 2018, 2017, around that time. They're not going to elevate the team just by having them, but they will do their jobs really well, and they can make big-time throws when they have to. You're just trying to minimize mistakes and keep the pressure off them to let them roll within an offense. So paired with good coordinators, those are great quarterbacks to have. And I actually ended up sneaking Aaron Rodgers into this tier. I might end up being too high on Aaron Rodgers this year. If he plays, I still think he's going to be a Steeler when the season starts. But he was actually pretty good. Like, I was digging into some of the advanced stats, and it's like he was 3rd in the league in money throws per player profile, like big-time throws, only behind Burrow and Allen. Like, he was making it happen with not a lot, and he wasn't putting the ball in danger. He had 11 picks, but only 16 danger plays, which was the lowest by far, considering he had almost 600 attempts last year. Anyone else in that area had like 200 attempts and similar amount of danger plays. Part of that is probably his average depth of target coming down just to below 7 for, I think, the first time in his career. That's probably why EPA stats aren't super favorable to him, but like, he got it done when Wilson was there as the 1, and then when Adams came in and was the de facto 1. Like, his numbers didn't really change. His offense line was pretty below average, and he was still making it happen with limited mobility. Like, he's not coming off an injury. I think you can squeeze one more good year out of him if you're Pittsburgh. Like, you got to be expecting playoffs with him. I think, I don't know. Maybe it's silly to like die on the Aaron Rodgers hill in the big 2025, but I'm pretty convicted that he belongs in this tier. I've got him at 18 in my rankings going into the year. Might be too high, but we'll see. I'm not putting any money on him or anything, but I like what I saw. So that wraps up the 3rd tier. Again, like I said, Aaron Rodgers is below some of the guys in the next tier we're about to talk about, but they're not similar in their career arcs at all, so I didn't feel like they were worth putting in the same tier. Because tier 4 is franchise guys, but you really want them to take the next step if you're the team that drafted them or has them. There are 5 guys in this tier: Jordan Love, Kyler Murray, Bo Nix, Trevor Lawrence, and Brock Purdy. Jordan Love is a funny quarterback. He's like, he can sling that thing, and he's got the mentality to sling that thing without kind of a care in the world. If I'm being honest, I probably haven't watched enough film of him to know like what he could add in terms of traits to take that next step. Maybe it's decision making, just like sharpen up and try and become more like a Joe Burrow, where you're not changing the game athletically, even though he's mobile-ish, but you're making the right decisions so often that it's just deadly. You just have to have such precision, or you can improve the pocket feel that I've been talking about, where you're moving around, you're extending plays not out of the pocket, but just by an extra 0.3 of a second. You're leaning this way, you get a better arm angle, you hit your receiver in stride instead of staying upright and getting hit as you throw and having it go off course, it's tough. Like, I'm not saying it's easy, but the elite guys do have it. Next is Kyler Murray. I wish Kyler was better, but like, he really hasn't taken that step to live up to the number 1 overall pick pedigree. I still think he's a top 15 quarterback in the league. And maybe I'm silly for thinking there's room for growth, but like, there has to be. There was a couple wasted years, I felt like, at the beginning with crappy offenses, crappy coaching. It's like, you have some stability now with Gannon. I know he's not the OC. Who is the OC there? Petzing? I forget. It doesn't matter. You're going into the same system for the second year in a row. You have Marvin Harrison going to his second year. McBride is fantastic. I was like certain they would add a wide receiver 2 in the draft just because I liked so many of them as wide receiver 2s. So many of the prospects, I mean. And they didn't really do anything. So it's hard to tell if that means they're leaning on Marv, they're leaning on McBride, or maybe they trust like the Greg Dortch, Michael Wilson combo they've got going on there, which is all right. Like, I think those are both fine receivers, but you're not changing the game with those guys, with all due respect. Connor and Benson don't really catch at the backfield, so we'll see. It depends maybe how much he's asked to run this year, Kyler. I do want him to succeed more than he has. Not that he's been bad. You want him to elevate. Like, he could get to that second tier, and I don't know what it would take, but I want to see it. Next is Bo Nix. I'm probably a little bit lower than consensus on Bo Nix, but I also was lower on him coming out. I still just don't see it with him. I think he's a product of being in a Sean Payton offense. Sean Payton, obviously a brilliant football mind. Here, you're asking him to go up there and check it down more often than not, and he can do it. Like, he had a relatively low average depth of target, around 7. Not gonna blow you away with the legs. He can move a little bit, but nothing crazy. I think he's just, I worry about him hitting a ceiling too quickly, especially if the league with a full year of tape kind of figures out his tendencies, because he doesn't have a cannon of an arm. He's not like uber athletic. He just doesn't have a trait that I can latch onto, which maybe I'm a sucker for, but I just would like to see him compound it with a year of getting better. I'm not sure how he's going to do that, but the Broncos should be pretty good, so maybe his perception will just go up and I'll look like a fool. So we'll see. Maybe I'm a Bo Nix hater. Next I got Trevor Lawrence. I really like Trevor Lawrence. I will go to bat for Trevor Lawrence. He does have traits. His arm strength to the outside the hashes is absurd. Like, you can have the ball on the right hash and you'll snap it, take a 3-step drop, and look like with the flick of the wrist, put it on the left sideline. And Brian Thomas Jr. is catching it over his shoulder, and it's like, okay, that is like that is special. Like, you can build on that as a franchise. He's also been in some shitty situations with Urban Meyer early on. And then Doug Peterson didn't really help him the way I thought it would. You could also argue he wasn't provided with a ton of weapons until BTJ last year, but now he's got BTJ and Hunter. Like, I'm kind of putting my chips on the table for Trevor this year. I think they'll get it done. Like, I think this is a playoff team in the AFC. He's got that feel. He's got that pocket feel that we're talking about, even better than Herbert, which I think, like, his ceiling is a Justin Herbert. And I want him to get there. I think he could get there, and the public could start seeing him there if he has a good year, and I think he's going to. So I'm in on Trevor Lawrence, but we'll see. That could also be one that backfires. And to round out this tier, I've got Brock Purdy. Just got a big payday. Good for him, man. Coming out of nowhere. Mr. Irrelevant. To make like hundreds of millions of dollars. That's got to be a great feeling. Seems like a pretty normal guy. So, like, I don't hate Brock Purdy. It's just kind of similar to Bo Nix. He's in an excellent system. Kyle Shanahan's obviously a great offensive mind. And Purdy's superpower is just executing the system really well. His improbability, I think, is a little bit better than Bo Nix. I just don't know if his arm talent is quite the same. So I think that's probably why I have Nix a touch ahead of Purdy. But they're pretty interchangeable in my mind. Purdy doesn't really elevate that offense, but he can execute it really well. So the 49ers should be good with him at the helm, and obviously they made it to a Super Bowl. I think they can win a Super Bowl with him, which is what you want in your quarterback, right? What more can you ask for? So that rounds out that tier. I've got two more tiers here. Tier 5, I called one game at a time, and it's only got 3 guys in it. It's got Tua Tagovailoa, Justin Fields, and Anthony Richardson. So this is a funny little group. Tua's, like, I feel like it's been said for 2.5 years now, but he's one hit away from his career being over, and it's still true. Like, he's just taken too many hits to the head, and his play has kind of suffered from that. I didn't dive too deep into Dolphins tape this offseason because it's just, I remember watching it live and being like, this fucking sucks. Like, why am I getting pissed off? Like, I still believe in McDaniel. I still believe in Tua's ability relatively, and Tyreek was fine. Waddle was fine. Like, they're both weirdly inconsistent. Jonnu Smith was really good. I'm really actually in on him as their tight end. Like, I'm really happy. I don't want them to trade him. He's really good. They got A-Chain to help things out. Like, theoretically, things should click for Tua. Which maybe it is just his health, but it feels like a cop-out to just say that. Like, I wish I had some deeper analysis there. His throws with anticipation, I feel like, are pretty good. That's one of his better strengths, and he plays in system really well. He doesn't have the arm talent to stretch the fields as much as you'd like. That maybe holds them back because the defense they played just played in zone a lot and kind of forced him to beat them. And he could do it to an extent. That's why Jonnu racked up so many yards over the middle. But you need that game-breaking element, and I don't know if he has it. So I have him in one game at a time because, like, if he gets hurt, it's over. Like, and if it goes poorly, him and McDaniel probably at the end of their leash here. Like, he got drafted in 2020. You're 5 years in. I don't remember what his contract looks like. It's too big, but, like, who cares? Contracts are fake these days. Like, the void years, I'm sure, are crazy. The dead money for the team will hurt, but I don't know. Russell Wilson incurred like millions in dead cap, and the Broncos are fine. So I'm sure the Dolphins could get out of it if things really go south. But I mean, I'm rooting for him. But I'm just very skeptical. We'll see how this season goes. I'm rooting for him. Next in this tier is Justin Fields, who I've always been like a really big Justin Fields fan. Probably to a fault because he's not good, realistically. But like, man, he could be so good. His running is top 5 in the league. His processing is bottom 5 in the league, though. And that's like you want to think it's a coachable trait, right? But he's been in the league for 4 seasons now, and it hasn't shown any signs of improvement. You're not working with Sean Payton or Kyle Shanahan, but like there's got to be enough voice in the room. Somebody's got to get through to him, and at this point, he might just not have it. I think the landing spot is really good for him in New York. Like, if it works out, the Jets are cooking with fire. Cooking with gas. I say cooking with fire because, never mind, it's a long story. It doesn't matter. Someone is tricking me. Someone's trying to, always tricks me to think that is the one that means you're cooking with more efficiency, but obviously it's gas. Anyway, Justin Fields, great player. I'm sure I'll have him on not a great player. I will have him on a couple fantasy teams. I want him to be a great player. But, like, I can't imagine his leash is super long if it goes south. Because they got Tyrod Taylor on the roster, who's, like, kind of the poster boy for reliable backups. Like, if the season starts 3-9, why not just throw Tyrod in there, right? And then you're looking at the draft next year for a quarterback. I think it's a 2-year contract for Fields at $20 million a year, I'm pretty sure, but there's no way there's that many guarantees in the second year. I'm sure it's like the Sam Darnold contract in Seattle. So, like I said, big fan, but man, he has to put it together now. Like, and he doesn't have that long of a leash. Speaking of which, we have Anthony Richardson in this tier. I think I was just a big fan of him coming out also because he's the same archetype as Fields. His traits are insane. Like, he's huge. He's like 6'4", 240. He's got a cannon. He had a couple throws last year that, like, you don't see that ever. Like, Favre couldn't sling it like that. Like, he might have the strongest arm in NFL history. Unfortunately, he can't hit the broadside of a barn when it's 5 feet in front of him, and I don't know why. Like, that should be even easier to fix than Fields' processing, because Richards' processing is fine. He's seeing the open guy. He's seeing Adonai Mitchell always fucking open. He's just airmailing it, because he can't go anything but 100 miles an hour. He rips that ball in there. He's got no touch that he needs. Like, this is such a coachable thing, and I feel like it's also a flaw in Shane Steichen if he can't get it through to him. A coach I also believe in, but we'll see what this year brings. I think Richardson will win the starting jobs over Daniel Jones, but he won't have a super long leash, which is why he's in one game at a time. And then the last tier is tier 6. It's called the future. Really pretty self-explanatory here. It's just guys that you can't really make a statement on one way or another at this point. You got Caleb Williams, Bryce Young, Drake May, Michael Penix Jr., JJ McCarthy, Cam Ward, Tyler Shook, and Jackson Dart. Guys that should all start this year, the majority of their games. And it's going to be fun. I think this is a good time for quarterbacking, for young quarterbacks in the league. Like, they're all there's not a lot of bad situations here where you're like, well, he's cooked. Tyler Shook is cooked because the Saints roster is abysmal. Like, if they win 3 games, I'll be happy for them. It'll have to be because Shook is good and carried them to them as well, because his roster is abysmal. But, like, Ward is in a relatively okay situation for a first overall pick. His O-line doesn't have any depth, so, like, if they have one injury, he's going to be getting sacked 6 times a game. But if they can piece it together, like, he should be able to figure some things out. I'm excited to see what this offense looks like. Kind of talking about these guys in reverse order. JJ McCarthy, I felt like coming out, if he was in this draft class, it would be like flip a coin between him and Cam Ward, who you want first, just because they're a little bit different styles of quarterback. McCarthy's more the processor, the pocket passer, and Cam Ward's the improviser a little bit. So I have McCarthy one spot ahead, but, like, they're interchangeable. You don't know what you're going to get coming off the injury. I don't think the injury will affect his play. Like, it shouldn't be an excuse because it happened, like, even earlier than training camp last year, if I recall correctly, or at least in training camp at the very earliest. Maybe preseason. I could be speaking with false confidence, but alas. He's in Kevin O'Connell's system, who just revived Sam Darnold from the dead. So, like, McCarthy should be really good. It's just hard to bet on him at this point. So I'm rooting for him. I say that about a lot of guys, but I'm rooting for a lot of guys. There's not many guys in the NFL in general who you want to fail, right? Like, these are guys who worked really hard. Most of them seem like good guys. Different topic for a different time, I suppose, though. Michael Penix Jr., he flashed. He flashed for sure in those last 3 or 4 games, whatever he got at the end of the year. Like, he can make the throws. He can scramble a little bit. It'll remain to be seen what a full season looks like. But the pieces are there. Like, there are no excuses about weapons. Like, you got Bijan and London, who are two. They're both probably in the top 10 at their position. London maybe top 15 if I really sat down, but Bijan's top 3. Kyle Pitts is still there. I want him to be good, but you know how it is with Kyle Pitts. He's got, what else Penix got? Who knows? Oh, Darnell Mooney. Of course, the most underrated guy in the game. I forgot about him. He's so underrated. He's probably going to put up 1,000 this year quietly if Penix is good, which is nice, but Penix can do it. And he's got Zach Robinson as his OC, who's a McVay disciple. So you get some of that West Coast offense going a little bit, and like if it's going, it's going to look really nice, and I think the aesthetics of Penix winning games there is going to really excite me. Then we got Drake May. Look, if Drake May has no believers, I'm probably dead. That kid can sling that rock. I just want to see him do it this year. We'll see. I'm not actually going to get too much into analysis for this one. But I think he's got the juice. Like, if he was in this draft class, he would have gone first. I'm very confident in that. He's got some pieces now, too. His wide receivers were... You can't say anything nice about them. Let's just put it that way last year. Bring in Diggs, which I think... Sneakily, Stephon Diggs was really good last year, even at 30 years old for the Texans. If this injury that he's going through doesn't hinder him too much going forward, like I think it's an ACL. Like, a 31-year-old coming off an ACL, normally I think he'd be cooked, but like, I don't know. Diggs has always like battled the odds. He's been a 5th-round pick or whatever, and then Bills thought he was the problem. You got to go to Houston and prove yourself. Maybe the Bills didn't think he was a problem. Let me rephrase. That was the narrative at the time, is that he is the problem in Buffalo. And then he still put up numbers in Houston. Even the advanced numbers are great. Like, he could be really reliable for Drake May. I know I said I wouldn't talk about Drake May for that long, but, Stephon Diggs is an interesting topic. And Kyle Williams is excellent. I think he was my wide receiver 10 in this class. I don't have it in front of me, but he's really good. And Travion Henderson was my RB2 in the class. He's really good. Like, Will Campbell's going to hold this line together. I got baited because I thought he could elevate the Patriots by himself in his rookie year, which I don't know if that's necessarily a bad take just because of how poor the situation is. Like, you could argue worse offensive line and worse weapons. Like, what are you supposed to do? What is Gerard Mayo supposed to do, by the way? I can't believe he got canned. It's too bad that Vrabel didn't just take the job year one, because Mayo was just the scapegoat, and like, he could be a fine coach. I hope he gets another shot in like 3-4 years, because I think he could be a good coach secretly. But this isn't a Gerard Mayo ramble. This is a Drake May moment. Drake, I think he's going to do it. I think he's going to put it together. So he's going to make a big jump on this list. I'll stand on that. Then we got Bryce Young, looking really nicey after the break last year. He went on bye week, and like, he must have spent every moment studying film, because he didn't look like the same quarterback after. It wasn't just the confidence, it was for me, on the highlights, it was always the anticipatory throws over the middle. I felt like in his first year and a half, he'd wait to see it open a little too much, and then all of a sudden after the bye week, he was just letting those things go, which means he's getting it out quicker. The pocket's not collapsing. He's not having to improv to see this window. He can stand in the pocket, 3-step drop, or 5, or just take a hitch, and then let it go, and it was always there. Thielen was always there. So good, by the way. Adam Thielen's still going to be good this year, which is crazy. And that was the kind of their bread and butter. And now you're adding Ted McMillan on the outside. Like, what else could you ask for? I just, that jump that he made just within the confines of last year, it just makes me believe that he's going to take another jump. And he's working with Canales, who's brilliant. Shout out the Seahawks. By way of Tampa Bay. But he started in Seattle with his bigger roles. Yeah, Bryce is going to get it done. I'm pretty sure. And then Caleb rounds out this tier. Look, Caleb Williams. Do I like too many quarterbacks? Because I like Caleb Williams too. I love Caleb Williams. I think he's gonna be great. And sometimes you overthink it. Like, there's a lot of talk about if the Bears are overhyped just because of all the Ben Johnson talk. Their weapons are insane, like almost too insane. I've heard some people talk about that. Too many mouths to feed is kind of a real syndrome. Like, you've got DJ Moore, Rome, Colston Loveland, Cole Kmet, Luther Burden. It's like, these guys are pretty good. I was low on Burden too. I think he was only my wide receiver 9 in the class. Most people have him top 5 for sure. But like, the pieces are all there for Caleb, and he flashed enough with a awful O-line. And football terrorist Shane Waldron that I think he's got the juice, and I don't know. I was on the generational train coming out of college, so like, why I'm not giving up after 1 year. Like, I think he's got the juice. So there's a lot of young quarterbacks I'm excited about in the league. There's some other vets I could talk about, but they're really irrelevant. That's kind of rounds out all I really want to talk about with the quarterback. So I think quarterbacking is in a really fun spot. There's a lot of established veteran talent, kind of at all ages. Like, that we never had like a 3-year gap where no good quarterbacks came out and like kind of diluted the talent. Like, we've had a pretty steady stream. Like, the face of the league with Lamar, Josh, Pat, and Joe, they're all 28 to 30. Like, they're in their primes now, which is fantastic. There was a brief dialogue last year that like quarterbacking is way worse now, and like, we used to watch gods play, and they'd show highlights of like Eli Manning and Big Ben dicing up defenses, and I'm like, okay, like the best guys now have great highlights, but the talent is deeper. And like, you start listing off the best quarterbacks of 2008, you pretty quickly get to Phillip Rivers. Like, if we're being real, I feel like quarterback talent is better now, and it's more demanding now. Like, I don't know. Excuse me. Old heads, man. Maybe it's just old heads pissing me off. Or it's just bait, because everything online is meant to rile up discussion. But the discussions are really what drive us, and that's why I like talking about quarterbacks. It's like, we don't talk about these things necessarily to be correct, because we might never know. We talk about this just to drive conversation forward. What's important about quarterbacking? What do we like in quarterbacking? What do we like about greatness? It's just fun. So I think that's kind of how I'll wrap it up today. This was fun. I think I'm going to enjoy doing this and recording my thoughts. So thanks for listening.